probably toward the end of it by the time all the approvals from the Federal Railroad Administration would be achieved and so on, but it could be done much quicker than a quiet zone and would solve some of, maybe in fact probably much of the problem, but not all of the problem. So it's something I think we're going to watch very closely. As I said, I made that offer to the mayor. He wanted to be able to talk with the city council and explore how best to be able to really proceed. So we consider that to be important. Next, we shared with you, obviously, and you heard from Beth a few moments ago about the deepening, obviously, financial crisis. Can't pick up the news, watch a television news program, or pick up a print news and not see that. And of course, we are feeling that same thing. We, right now, in fact, today begins our open houses on our reduction proposals. What we did is we looked at lines, principally, at first we looked at what had the lowest ridership. Second, we looked at whether there were alternative services that could be provided, maybe not as conveniently, a longer walk or other things, but that service could be provided. And looked really at geographical distribution of where reductions would be. That is, we'll go through first these open houses where there's a chance just to more informally comment and suggest changes from the standpoint of the public. The next stage is for us to refine the proposal, put it out actually formally to public hearing, and then ultimately to you for approval if or with whatever changes are recommended. Just so you have a feel for what has been put out for public comment. I mean, nobody likes, we certainly most like the idea of reducing service. I mean, that's the thing that if you're in this business, is the last thing you want to be able to do. And yet, as we shared with you in that New York Times article, across the country this is hitting. In fact, generally speaking, in many places, hitting harder than it is hitting us. Having said that, however, we are proposing 12 lines that would be eliminated in terms of service. But understand, these are relatively lower performing lines. That 12 lines represents 1.1% of our ridership during the weekdays. And not that that's insignificant. If you're one of the people that's that 1.1%, it's real and it's significant. 80% of those riders do, however, have an alternative. Probably less convenient, but do have alternatives. On weekends, it's a little bit different. The proposals we are making in terms of elimination of service represent 1.7% of our riders, and about 58% of those individuals have alternatives. So I just want to be able to put that in scale. It's something obviously we're looking at very closely, and we'll continue to be able to refine as we go forward from open houses into the public hearing process. Next, and this is probably the piece that's hard for the public to understand, sometimes it's hard for any of us to understand, and that is, we're getting this stimulus money that's flowing now from the federal legislation. Why are we having to cut on the other side and yet getting more money on the other hand? And the issue is that the stimulus is intended to be able to put people back to work. And that means that it's been heavily weighted toward capital projects. Now, short some of the issues at the state level where it's offsetting or benefiting unemployment and other essential services, that is unemployment compensation and so on. In the transportation world, it is aimed at infrastructure, and therefore that means capital projects. It really means putting people back to work. And although we believe that there is in one category of funds that come to Trimet that we can use that to help offset some of the service cuts that are there, it can't be used to address all of that. Just so you know, again, across the board within Trimet, we are looking at a 5% reduction. At the service level, we are expecting to be able to offset about half of that 5%, meaning taking down to about 2.5% on the actual service reductions that we will need. So we have really tried to be able to protect service as much as possible. package, and you'll see that and you've seen it in your board packets already. We want to be able to be ready to be able to expend those dollars. Trimet is in line to receive approximately $44.8 million of stimulus. Obviously, a large chunk of dollars from that. We are obviously working very closely with the rest of the region and us about how do we really put that into failing infrastructure, improvements that need to be able to be made, and the list, as you saw, has a long list of areas. Our highest priority was to be able to first address failing infrastructure, two, to be able to address other major capital needs that will make a difference as we come out of the recession, and we will be going through that here in a second. What some of the federal requirements are that at least 50% of the dollars must be obligated within 120 days, and all of it must be expended within 2 years. And so we want to be able to fully comply with that, of course, and then the lingo in Washington, D.C. is that if there are some other parts of the country that have not been able to fully expend their money, there is what's referred to as clawback, and that is pulling back the unexpended and available for reallocation. We also likewise want to be, if there is any of those dollars available, to be able to make use of it. We are stressing very strongly that we want to be able to have smaller contracts using some existing of our contractors, but to be able to make sure that we don't have these mega projects that have bidders from wherever, although we cannot specify geographic location of bidders by making for smaller, relatively smaller contracts. It isn't economically viable for entities from around the country to be able to bid on this. It really means local firms being able to bid, which obviously is our goal, that is to put local people, Oregonians, back to work. And although you saw in here, for example, that we do have the ability to be able to purchase buses, and we are desperately in need of new buses, and that is certainly permitted. As much as I like Minnesota, and that is where bus manufacturing is done, I want to see Oregonians put back to work, and so we've really focused that issue on how do we really do as much as possible here in Oregon. So with that, I would be happy to answer any questions, and then I have one very, very, I think, heartwarming story we want to be able to share with you.
Just one a thread on the for the future, and you think the Freightliner plant is going to be empty soon. Might just be a thought if we could entice somebody to build buses in the Freightliner plant. It's already a production plant. I mean, I just wonder, we talked to the governor, and we might entice somebody to come on in and take over.
Well, I think anybody we can entice into that plant, I love. And bus manufacturing is, I think this is one of the things you're going to see is across the nation. I think you're going to find a number of other transit properties making use of their transit dollars to buy buses. And when we met with the New Flyer, which is the manufacturer that's currently under contract to us, they do have capacity to be able to expand their bus production. But the idea of encouraging them to locate here would be a very good one.
Yeah, well, it's all set up. They build big trucks there. Might fit right in to build a bus. Yeah.
George? Yeah. Fred, on the 44, I think you said 44.8 million.
Yes.
In stimulus package. Can you talk a little bit about how that money flows in? In other words, if we're authorized at 44.8, when does the actual allocation take place? Or do we contract for a project and then make a request for X dollars, or how does that work?